Before we get into today's video, I just want to remind everyone that there's links for these books down below, and if you're looking to help out the channel, head over to my About section and check out the list of books that have been requested that I don't yet own, that if you'd like to contribute, you can send those books. Outside of that, just a friendly reminder that I'm doing this all on a phone. I don't do this for money, and I don't accept cash. Yeah, that's it. Let's do it. Alrighty, my beloved, welcome back to Orthodox Review, where today we're taking a look at the Jordanville prayer book, that perennial favorite that everyone and their mother seems to own. Now, you're probably wondering why I have two copies here. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. First and foremost, we'll go over the usual, that being the publication, all that jazz. The book, in its current printing, is the fourth printing of the, or is it the fifth printing of the fourth edition? Fourth printing of the fifth edition. I stand corrected. At any rate, the book originally was a text by Father Lazarus Moore, who we mentioned in the previous video about the Holy Transfiguration Monastery Psalter. That was from 1960. The first edition of the prayer book in its current format was published in 1979. Went through a couple of revisions. The second edition was 2003, and this current edition, the fourth, was probably about 2009, but this printing is from 2011. As you can see, hardcover, nice thick pages. The binding leaves a little something to the, this is literally taped together. One of the many reasons why I own more than one copy. This book, I'll show you, bought it in 2012, and this is just some dates for stuff. Returned in 2016. And the reason it was returned in 2016 is I went to the monastery once and bought a new copy because I thought maybe I got a bunk binding. So for one solid year, I used this copy, and this is 1 year's use. And still, you've got tape. The binding is sewn, but is entirely too stiff, and it's poorly glued. Outside of that, if you can deal with maybe sections falling out and being taped back in, it's solid. The translation is what can best be described as Victorian English, and is actually really comfortable to read. Disturbingly comfortable, might I say. If we take a look at a random bookmark, okay, oh, see? Look at that. We've got a nice, big, easily readable font. Not too much jammed onto the page. Well, since the section from Vespers it seems to want to be there, and there it is. I will say that this book, for what it is usually the de facto go-to for a lot of Orthodox Christians, both in and outside of the Russian Church. You'll find a lot of folks from the OCA and even from the Antiochian Archdiocese using this book because it is rather complete. The selections from Vespers and Matins you can read on your own at home, and of course has the usual Triparia and Cantacia, the Paschal Cycle, canons and acathist, some light catechetical work in the back as far as how to read and what you should do. And as we all know, the Russians have a long tradition of doing things a very specific way, and so you will get italicized instruction in the book. This particular one has a little ribbon marker I put in there because when it split, and yes, the cloth actually split from the paper itself, I mended it with some super glue. And that was the outcome. As you can see there, it's, by the time you get to the other end, it's completely split from the binding. The supplicatory canon Doesn't matter what translation you use. You should read this every day if you can. I'm supposed to. I don't because I suck. Now, if we go to a slightly newer, fresher printing, I should say, we will notice that the cloth stayed intact, but again, the process that they use to glue and sew, it's definitely not Smythe sewn, but it is sewn, leaves a lot to be desired. You can see that even though this one was only used for about a year, it did not weather the storms of my life very. Yeah, you can see that's that's the most open page right there. Didn't weather the storm of my prayer too well. Now, despite construction issues, the translation is what's the best way to put it? For Victorian English, it seems to be the most comfortable. For instance, oh yeah, you can see, yeah, I showed you that page already where I glued it. Pardon me, coffee has gummed me up. Let's check the readability of this. To the Theotokos, let us run now most earnestly, we sinners all and wretched ones, and fall down in repentance, calling from the depths of our souls. O Lady, come unto our aid, have compassion upon us. Hasten thou, for we are lost in a throng of transgressions. Turn not thy servants away with empty hands, for thee alone do we have as our only hope. It just rolls off the tongue. It's ridiculously readable. Now, of course, as I might have mentioned in a few other videos, the Psalms that are the Psalm translation, pardon me, that's used in this is the Holy Transfiguration Monastery Psalter. Now, in my very first video, I did the pocket edition of this, which just recently came out, and uses their new translation, which is based off the Miles Coverdale translation. So you will see, I believe, from what my inside sources tell me, that future iterations of this prayer book will be using those psalms. Outside of that, if you're looking to get into a prayer book that just reads easy as all get out and is very universal, here's one thing I've noticed. After years of reading this translation, I find that other either classical English or Victorian English translations are easy to read because I'm familiar with this text, because there's very little variation in those texts. It's only when you get into modern English and fresh translations that you start to see some issues. So the only thing I would say is that this book is slightly overpriced. I'm not going to lie. Because of the quality, I would say that $22.95 is just a tad too much. I'd drop it by about $3. Plus, I like round numbers. I will also mention that the Slavonic version of this book, and I wish I could find my copy, the Slavonic version of this book is not only full color, has higher quality paper, is Smythe sewn, and they are built to last. So why they decided to skimp out on the English version is beyond me. Maybe it's just a faux pas. But at any rate, if you're looking to get into a prayer book, especially if you're new to the faith and you want something that's going to stand the test of time linguistically and give you a great basis for the prayers of the church and some of the services of the church, the full Divine Liturgy is in here, and of course every jurisdiction uses a different translation. But just having those selections from Matins and Vespers to get you kind of in the habit of knowing some of those psalms. This is the one to go with. Outside of that, there's really not much to say about it. It's one of those things that I guess we all take for granted because so many of us have used this prayer book, and it seems like old hat. But anyway, I love it. I'll probably buy another one when these wear out. At any rate, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's a list of books in my profile thingy if you're looking to donate to the show. And there's a link to the Amazon list for that, for reference. Thank you all so very much for the kind support. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to try to keep this thing going as long as I possibly can. I do have books on the way because I do have other translations of Psalters and stuff that I'm going to get to. I just want to make sure that I have as many different iterations of each translation as possible so I can compare construction. So it's coming. Anyway, 1.5 big thumbs up. Thank you all so much for coming in. And we will see you next time. Please don't forget to go to church, say your prayers, and remember God. Love you. Bye. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking to help out the channel, check out my About section. There's a few ways there that you can help be a part of this.